If you ask people what searching for wrecks is like, I think they probably imagine there's a single target sitting alone in the darkness, just waiting to be found. The reality is very different. Wreck hunting in deep water just doesn't work like that. And the search for US Coast Guard Tampa is a really good example of that. We had to look at an enormous area of seabed in some of the most inaccessible parts of the sea around the British Isles. But while searching for that wreck, we kept finding others. Some had vanished so completely from memory that nobody even knew that they were there anymore. And some, like the one that I'm going to talk about today, the French trawler Thierry. It was a relatively small fishing vessel, lost off the south coast of Ireland in July 1971 while fishing in extremely heavy fog. She collided with a German cargo ship, the Régine. In fact, I think the cargo ship collided with the Thierry. The impact was catastrophic. Contemporary newspaper reports described the trawler as being virtually cut in two. It sank rapidly. What makes the story particularly haunting is the accounts from the surviving crew. As the small fishing vessel disappeared beneath them, the skipper, Maxime Guiochet, was trapped inside the wheelhouse. His shouts for help were heard by the crew, who desperately tried to reach him. They could hear him calling, "Save me, save me," but there was nothing they could do before the trawler finally went under. Guiochet and another crewman, Samuel Fradet, were lost that night, leaving behind between them 9 children. The 8 surviving crew members were rescued from the sea by the ship that had hit them, the Régine. But today, more than 50 years later, the wreck lies in deep water offshore. It's a sort of wreck that divers don't casually stumble across. It's too far out in the approaches. Basically, nobody would ever dive it. The reason is because it was small compared to the large liners, the U-boats, the big merchant ships that divers are usually interested in. So even if a diver or a team of divers was to go that far out, they would probably have not been interested in it. There's much bigger and more famous wrecks nearby. But because we were looking for the Tampa, which is a small vessel, we went and dived a whole load of these small wrecks across this massive area of seabed. And that meant that we were able to find these small tragedies, solve mysteries like the Thierry. So in today's video, I'm going to show you what it was like, how we found it, and how we identified it. The first problem you've got to solve with diving off the north coast of Cornwall is how you get there. And that means you're going out with Chris Lowe on Atlantic Diver. There isn't another boat that will take you out this far. We've used Chris a lot. He's fantastic. I've spent a really good part of my life on board this boat, and today was no exception. It's going to take us about 3 hours out, 3 hours back. During the journey, everyone likes to do their own individual thing. What we have here is a classic example of a technical diver getting in the zone. It's all about mental preparedness, isn't it, Steve?
That's right, Don. Round the dive, dive the wreck, wreck prepared.
Yeah, I can see you visualising as we speak. So, Jacob, you're our representative today from that famous diving organisation, the Peckham Underwater Explorers. Tell me, what are you looking forward to today?
Well, I mean, hopefully it's a Tampa. We've been doing this for about 5 years or so, haven't we? So we're going to run out of stuff to dive eventually. There'll be no more wrecks left in the sea, and I'll start to wonder if it's actually even there. But you know, I'm confident. Today's going to be the day. Yeah.
Today's the day.
Today's the day.
Well, fingers crossed, eh?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Jacob's confidence was misplaced. Today wasn't the day. In fact, tomorrow was the day, but we didn't know that at this time. We had a huge amount of confidence going into this dive. We thought finally we were going to crack it. but I guess that's the way it goes. We've kissed a lot of frogs trying to find the Tampa, and this was just another one of those. For me, it was made slightly more interesting, in fact, a lot more interesting, because I'd given up a day of the Britannic exped to be here, to be ready, to try and find the Tampa. As it turned out, that proved to be a really good decision, because we'd already done all the Britannic dives. I managed to get back in time. I managed to get all my kit ready. I managed to get here and get on this dive. But if things had been a bit different in Greece, potentially I'd have traded one of my Britannic dives for the opportunity to go and find the Tampa, or the opportunity to go and find the Thierry, which is not quite as cool. It's still pretty cool because we're solving a mystery, but it's not the Tampa. It's not a major discovery. It's a little fishing vessel, really important to the people who lost their loved ones on this vessel, probably really important to the survivors, if any of them are still alive. But in terms of a really significant event in a world war, well, the loss of the Thierry isn't that. You can see, for those of you who watch my other videos, you'll be very familiar with a lot of what is happening here. We've jumped in. I've said hello to my buddy. He's made sure that there's no gas leaks. I had a quick look at him. There's no gas leaks on him. And now I'm just sorting my kit out in the descent. One of the things with this dive is it didn't quite go as well as I hoped. Not that you're going to see anything that's majorly wrong. It's just kind of mentally, I wasn't quite there. And I think maybe that's because getting back from the Britannic had been such an issue for me. This was on the Saturday. I'd spent all of Friday travelling. So I'd left Kia in the early part of the morning on Friday morning. I travelled all the way through the day. I'd got back to my house at 7:30 in the evening. I then had to put together all my gear, get everything ready, and then get myself to Newquay, which is about an hour away, for Saturday morning. So it was all achievable. It was all done. I'd said hello to my wife and my kids and all those kind of things. But there was definitely a bit of a rush associated with it. And you might see that going on here. Jacob is quite a long way ahead of me, and it is ahead all the way through the descent, even though I'm the one that's got the scooter. And as you can see, it's because I'm messing around with stuff. In fact, at this moment in time, what I'm doing is I've managed to get the lazy shot, that yellow line, wrapped around the rear of one of my cylinders, and there you can see it's just wrapped around the scooter. Not a major issue, just one of those things that takes a bit of a while to sort. And if you were to ask me how long it takes, or it took me, I would have said a lot longer than it seems in this video. In fact, you might have heard me asking Jacob there to come and give me a hand. He didn't. He probably didn't hear me. Probably didn't even notice I was tangled because I dealt with it so quickly. But at the time, it just felt as though it took me a while to resolve. The other thing that you can see going on here is I'm about to attach my dive voke to the lazy shot there, which is what I'm going to watch when I come back up for my deco stops. Once again, it just took me a long time. It doesn't seem as though it's taken me a long time on this video, but it felt as though it took me a long time. Maybe it's because I can see Jacob disappearing off down the line there, and I'm kind of feeling that I have to be with him. I want to be there when he gets to the bottom, when he gets onto the wreck. But it was just certainly at this bit of the dive anyway, a little bit of a sense of unease. And it didn't really go for me until I was on the wreck. I've just fast forwarded a bit, and as you can see, I'm now getting close to the wreck. Still haven't caught up Jacob, who was really motoring on this. It's quite unusual. Normally the person with the scooter is going to get down first. One of the questions you might ask, of course, is if I wasn't feeling great, why did I carry on? And what I would say is that's one of those decisions that you have to make as a diver. How not happy are you feeling? I was feeling a little bit unhappy, a little bit of unease, more, I think, the sense that I just wasn't on top of my game. So that was what was going on, rather than a kind of a major sense that something is wrong. What isn't wrong is that we are on the wreck. There's always a possibility doing dives like this that the shot's not going to be on it, but this is bang on it. You can see it's right next to it, and we are just coming over the wreck. And that means we're into the whole kind of, what is this wreck? Where are we? What's going on? Probably just seen I've gone over a winch. As it turns out, I've also just gone past the bridge, and I'm now heading towards the bow. This wreck was really heavily netted, and you're going to see lots of that during the dive. It's one of those things. I mean, this was, as it turns out, was a fishing vessel. We don't know that at this period of time, but this area is heavily fished. There's loads of stuff out here, and that means legacy nets, ghost nets, whatever you want to call them, are a part and parcel of every wreck. They do pose a hazard, but as you'll see, most of these on here are old nets, and therefore they're big and heavy. They stick to the wreck, not much to worry about. I'm clearly at the bow, as you can see. We know it's a small wreck. You can see I'm just going down to have a quick look, see if there's anything obvious down at the seabed here, like, for instance, the bell. Sometimes they fall off, land on the seabed. It's not there, which is a bit of a pity, but not really that much of a surprise. Wreck is quite intact, which is relatively unusual, and a good indicator really that this is a relatively modern wreck. Older wrecks tend to be more degraded, and as you see throughout this dive, I'm going to spot other things that lead us pretty rapidly to the conclusion that this is a modern wreck. Just coming back over the top again, you can see Jacob, he's been to the bow as well. He's heading around trying to see what he can see. There's that winch again, and what I've got my torch on there just up the top, that is it's going to be the bridge. I've already realised it's the bridge, so you've got to spend a bit of time there, because that's where you find things potentially that can help you identify it. Maybe the maker's plate, maybe a bell, maybe some writing on something like a helm. What is quite obvious to me, you can probably see, is that there are lots of boxes here. These look to me as though they're non-ferrous. Actually, haven't reflected on it, I suspect they're stainless. They just haven't rotted in the 50 years that this is underwater. But this is clearly the bridge area. I didn't know it at this time, but if you think back to my introduction, this is the area where the skipper was last seen with his "save me, save me, save me" cries. So it's clearly collapsed, the bridge. Potentially he or his remains are somewhere in here, and which is a really sobering thing when I look back at it now. He, as you heard in the introduction, him and the other crewman had 9 children between them. So that was 50 years ago. I think it's a reasonable assumption that some of his children, or maybe his grandchildren, are still alive today. And yeah, I mean, I hope that they see this video. I hope they realise that we found where their father or their grandfather, where his ship is, and potentially where his remains are as well. What I'm doing at the moment, you can see, is I've just gone off onto the starboard side of the wreck, and there's some stuff down here. I'm coming down to have a look at it. Things often fall off bridges. That to me looks like a bit of a plate, as in a brass plate, a metal plate. I'm thinking, at this point in time, I'm thinking that maybe that is the maker's plate. I'm going to pull it up, and you can see it isn't. It's just a bit of plastic. At this point in time, obviously I don't know what the wreck is. My entire focus is on trying to find something that can identify it. At this point, I know it's not the Tampa, because that big winch, Tampa didn't have one. It had a gun where that winch should be. So we know it's not the Tampa. As I go down the starboard side, once you can see me looking over the edge for things, it's really clear that this is some sort of modern fishing vessel, still catching fish. You can see all those nets on there. It's absolutely beautiful. There is so much marine growth on this wreck. It is beautiful. But at this moment in time, I've absolutely got that focus of trying to figure out what it is, trying to identify it. I'm looking for any clues that may help me with that. As I've gone up onto the wreck there, that's clearly the engine room is underneath there. I didn't know at the time, but this is a diesel ship. It was built in the early 1950s, so post Second World War. It's not going to be coal fired, so therefore there won't be boilers. There's almost certainly a diesel engine under there. I've got to the stern of the ship. I am dropping down. I'm going to have a look at the prop. Sometimes you can tell things from props. So anybody who watched the video where we dived another fishing vessel, the Le Boche, when we got underneath it, it had one of those shrouded props, which are quite a modern design. I think this doesn't have that. It's got the rudder there, and it's got a fairly standard screw we're going to see in a second. Once again, covered in fishing nets. It's not a tug though. A tug would have a much bigger screw than that. The other thing I've realised at this point is that my GoPro isn't working, so you can see I've just turned it on. Now the benefit of doing that is that all of a sudden we get some much better quality video than my Paralens. The GoPro mounted on the front of my scooter with those two lovely video lights. So you saw the screw there. You can see this is coming up on the port side now. Once again, super intact, this wreck, really unusual. At the back there, those kind of, I guess, curved bit is part of the trawling gear. I've seen them on other fishing vessels. So once again, I recognise this. There's no doubt in my mind at this point that this is a trawler. So we've got those things at the back, we've got the winches at the front, we've got that relatively small prop and the size of it. Everything just points to this being a trawler. No idea which trawler, no idea of the history, but those boxes in the bridge, that would give me anyway the view that this is a relatively modern trawler, which fits in well with the fact it's intact as well. So there's electronics in the bridge. There we go. Now what you can see down here, looking down there, that is probably into the engine area, or maybe part of the accommodation, sort of the stern accommodation. Realistically, not going to be able to get in there, but I do have a quick look in there. The other thing you can see on this wreck is actually loads of fish as well. Clearly, they're laughing about the fishing nets, but there we go. And this is back on the bridge. So if there's anything that's going to tell us what this wreck is, chances are it's in the bridge. That's my logic. And what I'm going to do is have a good look around. So I let go of the scooter and start looking around. You'll have seen me do similar things on other dives. It's that slow, methodical, taking the time to look really closely at everything that there is down there and hoping that you find something that's going to solve the mystery. Whatever that thing was I picked up there, I think it was a bit of plastic, didn't solve the mystery. That there, I think, is a toilet or possibly a basin. And then here are all these boxes again. This is clearly the main area of the bridge. The brains, I assume those would have been navigational or radio equipment or something like that. Once again, you can see there I'm using the light from the scooter to have a good look around, also recording it. There you go, the fish have been scared by something. I think it's another diver coming down. You can see there's wires and cables there. Once again, sort of thing that you get on modern ships, what you don't get on World War One or earlier type stuff. What I haven't figured out yet is just to my left there, that is actually the helm. So I'm going to find the ship's wheel in a minute, but that's where it would have been. If you think the construction of a helm, the helm is actually the steering mechanism. The wheel, which I've just put my torch on there, goes onto the helm. Normally it's made of wood, so the internal bit is wood, the spokes are wood, and then the handles around the outside are wood. What you do normally have, though, is a bit of brass that keeps that all together, and that's what I've just spotted down there. And as I get closer, you will see there is remnants of wood left. Now that's it's quite unusual to find a ship's wheel. It's really good though, because often they have the name written on them. It's kind of a bit of pride. I've seen several ship's wheels that are like that. The brass circles around the outside. I'm going to spoil it a little bit for you. This one doesn't have the name on it, or if it does, I couldn't see it. I mean, you can see I'm going to spend a bit of time pulling this out, trying to get it upright so that I can see the name. Now, once again, if I'd known this was the Thierry, and I'd known this is where the skipper was last seen with his kind of save me call, would I have done this? I guess I wouldn't have done, because I know that I'd have known that this is a Thierry, but at this moment I don't know it's a Thierry. I want to solve the mystery. I want to give, potentially closure to people who are missing people. And there's not a lot of clues often on shipwrecks to what things are. So if there is something on here, that will help, or potentially would help an awful lot. As it turns out, there isn't, and we've actually got enough. When I get on the surface and we start doing the research, there's enough to identify what it is. But I didn't know that at the time, which is why I'm carrying on doing what I'm doing. It's also kind of hooked in with bits of net and other bits of rope and all sort of bits of actual wreck. So the bridge, as we've already said, has collapsed down, and therefore the remnants of that are in the way here, are just making it a bit difficult to get it out completely. So I don't do anything with it other than leave it here. So if anybody wants to see a ship's wheel, you can go and see one on the Thierry. It's exactly there where I've left it, and I actually come back to it later on, I think. So you see it towards the end of the dive, but nothing on it is the sad bit. Nothing, no words, no letters, no clue as to what it is or where it came from, which is disappointing, but that is the way it goes. The important thing for me is that we identify the Thierry, and how we identify it is not so much relevant. It's the fact that we did. And I guess it's worth saying, how did we identify it? Well, the size and the shape are right. When you have a look at the photos that I showed you at the beginning, the layout is the same. It looks the same. There's all the hatches and stuff are in the right place. It's sunk pretty much, where the sinking report of the Thierry is. Remember, of course, that the German ship that hit it would have filed a report, would have said where it was, and those things all match up together. There's one other killer feature as well, which I'm going to come back to later. You've seen it already, but I haven't talked about it, but you are going to see it in a bit. And once I realise what it is, it's an incredible thing. But I haven't realised at the moment. I think I'm just stuck in a bit of netting. I think it's caught on one of my stages. So what I'm doing kind of out of shot at the moment is just disentangling, unentangling, whatever it is, sorting it all out anyway. I think at this point I've decided that I just need to have another look around. Potentially this is where the bell is, up the front here, or maybe falling down from the bridge. You can see there's a hatch there. I think the big winch is off to my left. The forecastle is there, forecastle rather, is there in front of me. There's a hatch there that would have gone into that area. There might be something in there, but probably not. Every skipper I know of a boat just keeps all sorts of random rubbish in the front. But right, so we are back on the GoPro. You can see there, I'm looking down on the seabed. There's nothing there. I think for those of you who follow my dive computer on the left hand side there, you'll see that the TTS is starting to rack up. This is 90 odd meters deep. It's quite early on in the year as well, so the water is still relatively cold. we don't want to do a huge amount of deco, not least because we've realised it's not something special. So I'm keeping an eye on those sorts of things, as I always do. But what I'm mainly trying to do is have a look on the seabed. Maybe if there was a bell, it would have fallen off, but it isn't there. So coming back up on the wreck. And in some ways, I think this bit of the wreck that we're coming onto now is one of the more interesting parts of it. It's the wreck, as you can see, has got a slight lean to the starboard side, and therefore a lot of stuff has fallen either not so much onto the seabed, but has fallen down into the side here by the gunnel. You can see there that's just the edge of the bridge there, and I've been here before, but there's loads of stuff in the bottom there. There is the winch that's looking towards the bow. And once again, it's just having a look on the off chance, just taking the time that something might have fallen down. There's another diver. I think what I'm probably trying to do is let the other diver know that the ship's wheel is up there. I was just briefly looking at the helm for a moment. That is the one major bit of the bridge that is still intact and upright where it should be. There it is. There's the wheel. You can see the helm is just behind it, so it's slightly fallen off to the starboard side. The reason I just had a look back at the helm there and I'm back on the bridge is because when I dug it out, clearly I kicked the viz up, and I'm coming back to it now that the viz has dropped down a bit, just to check, confirm. Maybe there's something there, maybe there isn't. That hatch that we've seen already, that goes down into the engine room. I think that may well have been a skylight or something like that, or maybe vents. Engine rooms get really warm, as I'm sure people realise, and therefore having decent vents and decent light is something worth having. Right, this is me, I think, dropping just down on the side here. So this is back on the starboard side, and once again, loads of nets. Having a look round the wreck, doing that kind of slow, methodical thing doesn't necessarily make for great viewing, although I know people always like to watch and see if I've missed anything. One of the interesting things here, I think if you have a look on there that I'm just looking directly at, that is, I think, a door, and my view is that if you have a look here, that is where the door has come from. So I have a look up through there to see if there's anything interesting. In a moment, I think I'm going to be able to see out of the other side of it. I guess if I was wearing a single cylinder, maybe if I had a side mount, maybe I have a different rebreather, I might be tempted to go in there and have a look around. But this is 90 odd meters deep. It's getting close to the end of my run time. I don't think there's anything in there that's particularly interesting, so I am not going to bother. This is me back at the stern, back on the top of it again. You can see all those beautiful marine growth. I guess there must be some relatively strong currents here for that all to be there. Those all feed in currents. I'd love to be able to tell you the name. Unfortunately, that's just not who I am as a diver. I know a lot about wrecks, or I know a reasonable amount about wrecks. I'm not so good on marine life. That's the thing that I saw earlier on. It's some part of the rope or the net handling system. There's probably a proper word for it. Unfortunately, I don't know it. Set of mooring bollards you probably saw just down there. So I guess that's where the stern would be moored. And I'm now going to move forward. And when I move forward, one of the really interesting things about the wreck is going to come into sight. I should have really seen it when I descended, but I hadn't clocked it up until I go to it in a moment. What I'm doing before that, though, is that slow, methodical thing that I do, but I'm doing it on the port side now, just having a look, see if there's anything that might give us a clue as to what it is. Nothing. There's just loads of stuff covered in net. So this is me moving forward. And I think roundabout now is when I suddenly realise, if you have a look down there, there is a massive crack in the hull. If we think back to the newspaper reports, they talk about the Thierry being nearly cut in half. Now, clearly it's not in half, but it does have this massive crack in the side of the hull. All the other bits of the hull are completely intact. We've seen them throughout the dive, but this bit here is not. Imagine what is going to happen to a ship the size of the Thierry when it gets a hole in it as big as this is. And as you can see, I'm sticking the GoPro, sticking the scooter in to show you how big it is and how deep into the wreck it goes. It has put a massive hole in the side. The amount of water that is going to go in there is going to be incredible, and it's going to happen really quickly. And that, for me, is why the Thierry sunk as quickly as it did, and why I think the crew thought it was cut in half. If we come up here, you can see it's kind of a bit difficult to see in this video, but it was really obvious underwater. There's also a massive dent here in the side of the bridge. I think you can probably, I'm hoping you can see it there. I'm putting my torch on it, but it does, there's a huge curve in from the impact. Now, I've tried to find out the details of the Régine, how big it was, but I've not been able to find anything. But judging by the size of the dent and the size of the crack, it must have been a much bigger vessel than the Thierry. I can't think of any other reason why you would get a crack the size of that big, and why you would also get that big dent as well. You can probably see that I'm back up on the bridge, and the thing that I'm going to do is I am clearing the growth off the helm, the actual helm, and you can see the boss now, which once again I hadn't spotted when I was doing when I was looking at the wheel. I have spotted it now. It's one of those things, when you see something like this, you kick yourself that you hadn't spotted it earlier. But that's the reality when you're doing this kind of diving. You are getting so much information. You've got such a short period of time that you sometimes do miss things, and that's why I go through that really methodical thing. That's, you make sure that I don't miss things. And there you go. I've put the GoPro back on the boss, and once you see it, it's really obvious. There's the bits in the side where the spokes would have come out. You might also have seen that there was a porthole on the floor as well. So I guess that would be off the side of the bridge. So maybe when the Régine hit the Thierry and did that huge amount of damage, it also smashed the bridge up as well, and that's why there's so little of it left, why unlike the rest of the wreck it has collapsed, and why that porthole that I saw there is on the ground. What I've decided at this point is that my dive is done. You can see there I'm heading towards my strobes. I've got whatever it is, 100 minutes, 130 minutes TTS, 2 and a bit hours. The runtime, the max runtime on this was 150 minutes. Although, credit to Chris, he's a bit less worried about it than some of the other skippers that I dive with. He doesn't want you to completely smash it, but he's not going to get super upset. And it's time to start the ascent. What that means is all the usual stuff I do on the bottom of my dive, or rather at the start of the ascent. So as you can see, I've just taken my strobes off there. I'm busy fixing them onto my shoulder. I've got a kind of clip up on the top right hand side. I am going to do that, honest, all the time. As you can see, I'm starting to ascend, so I'm not spending extra time on the bottom trying to do these things. I'm just ascending while I'm doing everything. Clearly that cuts down the amount of deco I'm going to do, gets me into the best possible place, and all those kind of things. You probably see the water starting to get a bit lighter already as I'm coming up, and there what you can see is I'm using my scooter. You saw the rush of bubbles go past, so that's me venting the loop, getting the gas out as I ascend. My standard procedure is to do what I'm doing here, which is to ascend using the scooter to get to about half the distance from the bottom to my first deco stop. What I then do is slow things down as I'm doing here, and I then take the rest of the way from the point I've got to up until my first deco stop. I'll take it at a pretty standard 9 or 10 metre per minute ascent rate. You can argue about whether that's a good thing or not, but it definitely it works for me. It's something I've done quite a lot, and so far so good. The other things you can see, some other admin going on as I ascend, so I'm just turning my GoPro off. Not that there's any particular reason for doing that. I could keep it running, but I just end up with a memory card full of video of my chest or whatever, because the other thing I'm going to do is fold in the arms on the video lights. You've already seen me turning the lights off, and then I'm going to clip my scooter to my the left harness on my or the left clip. Wrong, I'll say that again, the clip on the left side of my harness, and that keeps the scooter on my front. Anybody who's watched the video where I have the scooter behind me and it goes on, this is clearly a way to avoid that. So the scooter's in front of me. If anything happens with it, I've got easy access to it, and it's all fine. What else is going on? You can probably see me ascending. Well, all the time I've been talking, I've ascended. I'm up to about 48 meters, so getting close to my first deco stop. The lazy shot with Chris is normally a bit shallower than it is if I'm diving with other people like In Deep or Dark Star. So it's going to be about 35-ish meters. But basically I'm at my first deco stop now. So what I'm doing, you probably see with my my handset for my inspiration is on my left hand there, on my left wrist. I'm just changing the PO2 to 1.5 bar, and I'm going to do the same thing with my sheer water on my right hand side as well, and you will see that on the overlay that I've got on the screen. The advantage to doing that, of course, is that it accelerates my deco, and therefore will reduce the amount of time I need to do. It makes a reasonable difference, enough of a difference that it's worth doing. For people who are interested in CNS, obviously switching to 1.5 bar this deep will push up my CNS quite dramatically. I don't really, the standard CNS tracking, I don't pay any interest to. I've routinely come up from dives with 170, 180, 200% CNS. If you look at people like the wet mules who do the really long cave dives, their CNS must be in the thousands of percents. The only thing with oxygen toxicity that I'm interested in is the actual PO2. So I won't go to 1.5 on the bottom. I'll only switch to 1.5 when I'm as I am now, which is relatively static. So I'm shallower, I'm not working hard, everything's under control, and those reduce the risk factors for oxygen toxicity. Although pushing up to 1.5 absolutely does increase the risk of a hit. But for me, I think the risk is still absolutely reasonable. I don't think it's excessive. I've done it a lot. You'll see it in all my videos. So I guess so far the proof is that it works. I've skipped forward again. You can see I've come up about 10 meters, and I thought you'd like to see this, which is the lazy shot. You can probably see that hanging off it is a bag, and in that bag is my dive voke. Also, there is my tag, which you probably saw me leaving on the way down. And as you can see, it's the only thing left on the lazy shot. So I'm the last diver, which means I've got to release the lazy shot. Chris is slightly different. He doesn't use a clip. He just uses a bit of rope or a bit of kind of string there, you can see. And I'm just cutting it with my knife, which always gets a lot of stick for not being particularly sharp. And as you can see, it's making a bit of a mess out of that oral bit of rope. So I've no doubt I'm going to get a load of stick in the comments for that. But as you can see, it's worked. And the lazy shot is released. It's dropped vertically, and we're going to start drifting away. I'm going to swim over there because I want my dive voke. I want my tag. Those who will have seen some of my videos know that the dive voke has got an old mobile phone in there, and I use it to watch videos on my deco stops, and that does help the time fly quite a lot. So it's a great bit of kit. I love them to bits. If you haven't seen one, you haven't got one, you should definitely go and buy one. They're only a few £100s in the UK, and for me anyway, they transform decompression stops. As you can see, it's a bit lower or a bit deeper than I need to be, so And there's some other divers above me. What I'm going to do is pull up the rope to myself. I'll take it off and then I'll drop it back down again with that little bit of weight on. You see it's coming up fairly easily. The other thing you might notice, I've got a double clip on there. I've seen somebody drop one of these doing something very similar to what I'm going to do now. So one of those I've got a little clip on the wrist on my handset for my AP. So one of those clips is going to go on there. When that's all nice and secure, I'll take the other one off and I'll do the same. So this is always attached to me. There's no risk of me ever dropping it. There you go. You can see I've got the dive oak on me. The next thing I'm going to do is put up my S&B. That is our protocol. I think I've mentioned it already. Once the lazy shot is released, all the divers put up a delayed S&B. The skipper is then able to count them, see how many divers he's got. He will see that the lazy shot is drifting away, and therefore he can go back and recover the shot from the wreck. I think this is something that often surprises people. We don't leave shots on wrecks. There's no point. They would vanish. We're never going to come back here ever again anyway. So there's simply no point. And the skipper wants his weight. He wants his rope. He wants his buoy. And the last thing we need to do is leave a whole load more rope in the ocean. You probably saw there was plenty there. The other thing you might have seen is that I've come off to the side of the lazy shot. I've had a look up. I've made sure that there's not going to be any divers above me, because when I put up this delayed S&B, the last thing I need to do is disturb somebody by hitting it with them. I'm sure we've all seen that happen, or we've had near misses or whatever. Famously, I had one go up in between. It was my own. I put it in between my loop and my head. I still to this day have no idea how I managed that, but I did. It wasn't on a really deep dive like this, but somehow I managed it. I've no idea. I must have been absolutely not thinking. The other thing that probably some people aren't aware of is how I fill up my delayed S&B. I don't have a bottle on my delayed S&B. I don't have a CO2 cartridge, not on the main one. What I do is I use the auto air that is on the side of my rebreather. It's also the inflator for my rebreather, but it's connected into the 3-litre cylinder of air that I carry on the back. That gives me plenty of gas. It also runs my suit inflate. It runs my wing. And as you can see there, it gives me some gas to put into a delayed S&B. So that has gone up, and I'm going to, as you would expect, slowly wind it up as I ascend. I'm going to use it to control my deco stops, in the sense of it just makes decoing a lot easier if you hold on to your delayed S&B. You get slightly negatively buoyant, and it's just one less thing to do, particularly useful if you're watching a video like I am. I guess the only thing you've got to be aware of with watching videos is that it's easy to drift away from the lazy shot. At the moment, the viz is really good, and it's really easy to see the lazy shot. I think on this dive, as we got up shallower, the viz deteriorated and it became much more difficult. But anyway, in fact, here you go. You can see it. I've skipped forward. You can see I'm at 4 meters now, so my deco has pretty much clear. You can see my dive oak is hanging off my delayed S&B reel, along with that yellow call for gas reel. So if I needed it, it would be a really quick thing for me to do. But my stops have completed. I think I'm the last diver, so I'm the last diver left in the water. Another thing we do is, when individuals have cleared their deco, individuals come up. We don't tend to come up as a group or as little groups. The reality is I'm really shallow here. I've got a 50% gas if I needed it. I could get 100% gas in off the boat if I needed to. There's not really anything that anybody can do to help me. So that's our protocol. Once again, like as with lots of the stuff we do, it's possible to criticise it. You may do it differently. Obviously, that's entirely up to you. We don't do that. Most of the groups I dive with don't do that either. We just clear our deco, we come up as individuals. It's also easier for the boat as well, because it means it's only got one diver on the surface to deal with at any given time. The other thing you can see me doing here is just resetting or changing the PO2 on the shearwater back to 1.3. The reason I do that is because if I don't do it now, I'll probably forget to do it when I get in on my next dive. So it's happened to me. I've forgot to change it at the end of my deco stops. I've got in on the dive, and a couple of minutes into the dive, I've looked down at my shear water and realised it's still set to 1.5. Obviously, that's not dangerous because it's not what I'm not diving at PO2, but it will give me incorrect decompression information. So that's why I do it. As you can see, dive is done. I'm slowly ascending to the surface. I think at this point on this dive, I was feeling a little bit disappointed because we'd expected to find the Tampa, and we clearly hadn't found the Tampa. We'd found another fishing vessel, and at this moment in time, I didn't know that we were going to be able to identify that fishing vessel really easily. So it was a sense of disappointment. I kind of felt that maybe we'd run out of options on the Tampa, and therefore, it might be that we weren't going to find it. So there was definitely a sense of disappointment. But I'm a practical person, that's just the way it is. So I'm not going to let that bother me. What I'm mainly interested in now is getting back on the boat. I'm the last diver up, and therefore, as soon as I'm in, the boat is going to start heading for home. You can see surface conditions are really nice. There's not too much in the way of waves or swell. When you consider we're 50 miles offshore, we are a long, long way offshore. It's rare to get conditions like this, but it is really nice, and you've got to enjoy them while you can. As you see, come up on the boat, there's Chris operating the lift. You can see there's some other divers on the boat. James, by the looks of things, he's been out of the water for a while. The guy in the red hat, that's Paul. He's a diver, he's a deep diver, but he's decided that he's not doing it today, but he has agreed to come out and help us, which was really good of him. And it's always really useful when you've got somebody like that. Right, skip forward a long time. We're now heading back. You can see there's Newquay, where we started all those hours ago. It's dark, given the fact that this is May, so this is this is one of the longest days of the year, or certainly getting towards there. You can see how long we've been out, but on the way back we've realised we have identified it. We found it's the Thierry, which is brilliant news. Really happy about that. But what we've got to do is reset, because we are going again tomorrow, and tomorrow turns out to be the day at last where we identify the Tampa. If you've not seen the Tampa video, I'm going to put a link to it here. I recommend you go and watch it. It was a brilliant thing to be involved with, a fantastic discovery. We were all so chuffed. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed my video about the discovery of the Thierry. Please remember the 2 men who died on it. Remember their families. As always, please feel free to give us a like, subscribe, share, all those kind of things. Hype, new thing with YouTube. All that sort of stuff is really useful and important for me. But for now, I'm Dom Robinson, Deep Wreck Diver. I look forward to seeing you on the next one of my videos.